Introduction. Professor Geert Hofstede is renowned for having conducted the most extensive and conclusive research regarding how values in the workplace are influenced by culture. Therefore, he defined culture as the mutual programming of the mindset of a particular group of people as compared to other individuals. Moreover, in his research, Professor Hofstede constructed 6 dimensions of national culture. They include power distance index, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance index, indulgence versus restraint, and long-term orientation versus short-term normative orientation. In this paper, a comparison will be made regarding the differences in the cultural dimensions between the United States and Japan in addition to studying their impact in the workplace. Culture affects every aspect of an individual's life, especially the workplace. Cultural dimensions of the United States and Japan. The first cultural dimension is power distance index. Historically, Japan has a higher power distance compared to the United States. However, recent trends show that the Japanese have begun to criticize their leaders more often. Thus, the cultural values between the two countries related to power distance have become more similar. Individualism and collectivism are the second dimension. In this dimension, Japan tends to lie on the individualistic end, whereas United States lies on the collectivistic end. However, historically, Japan was on the collectivistic end. For instance, they were able to provide employment opportunities for all its citizens. United States on the other hand lied on the individualistic end in that they focused on efforts in entrepreneurship and individual successes. However, currently, they depend a lot on communal assistance such as welfare and social security. Additionally, the third dimension is masculinity versus femininity. Traditionally, Japan was known to be among the most masculine countries in the world. However, this has changed since a law was passed regarding equal employment opportunity, and thus they had to embrace femininity gradually. United States on the other hand has always supported femininity. The fourth dimension is uncertainty avoidance. Japanese tend to avoid uncertainty. Nonetheless, unpredictable occurrences such as the COVID-19 pandemic have affected their forbearance for uncertainty. Nevertheless, the United States has been known for being more of a risk taker, but due to random trends, its citizens now seem to be inclined in risk avoidance. In addition, long-term orientation is the fifth dimension. Japan was traditionally a long-term oriented country, however, emerging trends are forcing it to gradually incline to being short-term oriented. Among the issues forcing them to change is the decline in the population of those in the age bracket of working. United States on the other hand will be on the long-term inclination since commercial power has been moved to the east. Last but not least is the indulgence versus restraint dimension. The Japanese are more of savers, whereas the United States citizens never put on restraints to enjoying life and spending aimlessly. Thus, the implications drawn from these results are that Japan and United States are not so much apart in their cultural beliefs. It is noteworthy that each country is slowly shifting their cultural beliefs regarding the above dimensions and either taking up similar beliefs, such as how both countries have now embraced femininity, or exchanging their beliefs like in the indulgence and restraint dimension. Therefore, a manager dealing with people from the two countries would be in a better position to motivate his workers, since he or she would be aware of where the individual's beliefs are likely to be inclined. This would also be helpful when it came to placing them in the various organizational departments where an individual would give the best possible input. Furthermore, the success of any organization depends on comprehending the norms of those you are in business with, since each person would be comfortable in their working environment. Conclusion. In conclusion, this study will aid in learning about various cultures, thus appreciating cultural diversity. In addition, this will help the management of various institutions to recognize the norms of people at their workplace as well as the suitable methods of motivation, that is, the preferred incentives. StudyCorgi.com has everything you need for successful studies. Writing tools, informative articles, and essay samples. Come check it out.